So in the last video, I was talking about the sense of I, the most important word in our life. That which we refer to every day of our life as a means of identifying ourselves. So this sense of I has never been apart from us. We believe we are some type of separate being. We're conditioned to believe we're some type of separate being. In the spiritual path, in many ways, comes down to questioning the reality of that assumption, of believing that the thought of I as a separate being, separate from the world out there, may not really be true. So the real test of whether it's true or not, many teachers have discovered that real test is it really true in our actual experience? So there is a sense of I, but it's, as we discussed in the last video, there is no real way to ascertain that it's dependent upon thinking, because that sense of I is always with us. That sense of being present, of being here and now, is always present. But the thoughts are just arising and passing away. They're not permanent. And so how do we know that thinking is actually separate from this sense of I, this consciousness, this awareness we have that's looking out from our eyes? How do we know that thinking itself is separate? Is something out there? Well, if it's us, if we're experiencing thinking, we're experiencing what thinking is really made of. And so when we try to think about what thinking is, or what thinking is actually made of, we can't find anything that can tell us through thought what thinking is actually made out of. So we're experiencing this I, consciousness, experiences thinking, but it's not experiencing our actual experience is not experience thought as something separate from us, from the presence I that's always with us. So the thought I is always trying to, or makes this assumption that I am this or I am that. These are my thoughts. This is my body. But thought itself is something we don't know, is a mystery. Thought is actually made out of this awareness, because we're aware of thinking, so we're aware of what thought is made out of. What we're aware of is the experience of being aware. This I that we always refer to is the experience of being aware. So thought is made out of this awareness, but awareness is not dependent upon thought. It's not contingent upon thought. So we can look at our thoughts, notice them arising and passing away. And we can notice a gap between the thoughts. What's in that gap between the thoughts? Could it really be anything else than our actual being? And how does thinking, which is made out of this being that we are, how does it actually affect being itself, our actual being itself? How can thinking actually create a gap between the awareness that I am and the awareness that you are? A gap between the awareness that we are and what everybody else is. Everybody else's actual experience is that we're here in timeless, dimensionless space. No matter how far out into outer space we travel, we'll always be at that same place, that placeless place of having no boundaries to the spaciousness around us. No matter how far into the future or into the past we go, we'll be at that same timeless place with infinite time extending backwards and forwards. So past and future are always boundless, always infinite. That's the same awareness for all beings. So where do we find the sense that our actual being can be separate, that our actual being has parts, can be separated? The thought, how do we prove the assumption in our actual experience that thought can actually create some separation? It can't. And we can't make any definite conclusions from our thinking, but we can realize that we're faced with this total mystery.